Electricast.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet. And before we start, I want to let you know that today's episode is different. I want to share a behind-the-scenes look at my life because I've been doing some deep reflecting over the past several months, and I figured out some things that I want to share with you, my audience. And I'm recording today's episode while I'm still inside something. You know, most of the time when we talk about leading with intention, it sounds clean. It sounds clear, like we have it all figured out, like intention shows up after you know exactly what you're doing. But that hasn't been my experience. What I've been noticing lately is that leading with intention doesn't happen after clarity. It happens while you're still inside uncertainty, while you're still deciding, while you're still listening to yourself in real time. And that's where I am right now. So today I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm not walking you through any process or frameworks. I'm not offering answers. I'm letting you hear what it sounds like for me to think from inside the moment, to lead myself while things are still forming, and to make choices without needing everything to be finished first. If you're someone who leads a full life, carries responsibility, and is often expected to already know what's next, I want you to listen to this episode differently. Not for instruction, but for recognition, because maybe you've been leading yourself this way, and this is simply an invitation to listen without needing to hold everything together. So before I take you any further, I want to slow this a moment down just enough to set the context, because this episode isn't about a lesson I've learned after the fact. It's about what it looks like to live inside a season while it's still unfolding. What I'm about to share isn't a takeaway or a conclusion, it's a window. A look at how my days actually move right now, what I'm noticing and what I'm holding, and what it feels like to allow myself to settle into my days, to fully feel present without forcing certainty, and to lead myself without needing the full picture yet. So let me take you into my current reality and show you what leading with intention sounds like for me while I'm still inside it before anything's finished. Now, right now, my days look different than they used to. For the past several months, in fact, I've been reflecting on the direction I'm moving in, not necessarily from doubt, but more from a deeper desire to make sure that my life and my work still match the intention I've been living by. And so now I'm in the middle of building something new, but I'm not doing it from a rush or a push standpoint. I'm building it from where I actually am and letting it emerge from my life as it's being lived, not from a plan I'm trying to stay ahead of. Now, some days are full where I have brainstorming meetings with my business mentor strategists, to slower moments of sitting and reflecting on new ideas and creating from excitement for what this new idea will ultimately do for a very important community that I know so well. There's a vision, but not a finished picture yet, because I'm listening, really listening to the women whose lives I want to help lighten. And what's been different for me lately is that I've been paying attention to how I feel as I move through my days, not just what I'm getting done. Because truth be told, I used to be of the mindset to push through to the point of keep going, even if it doesn't feel fully aligned, because technically I was still serving. But what that led to more than once was burnout. And I can say honestly, even recently, emotional burnout. So lately I've been recording voice notes to myself, for myself, not content, not strategy, just check-ins. How did today feel? Where did my energy rise? Where did it pull back? What felt aligned? What felt heavy? Because for a long time, I only tracked output. Did I do enough? Did I get it done? Did I stay on pace? Was what I did good enough? And now I'm tracking myself. What's interesting is that while I've been doing this, something became very clear to me. You see, for months I thought I was trying to figure out what I wanted to build, but that wasn't really it. What I was actually trying to see was who I was building it for. I could answer the surface level questions like an avatar, a description, a role, but I couldn't see her clearly. I couldn't see her face. Not until recently. And when she came into focus, it wasn't abstract. She was familiar. She was the woman sitting at the table with me, in meetings, in offices, in high pressure environments. The woman carrying responsibility quietly, the woman expected to hold it all together. She was a woman in law. And when I saw that, it wasn't a branding decision, it was recognition because I've spent over 4 decades inside that world. I know those rooms. I know the pace. I know the pressure that becomes normalized because everyone around you is carrying it too. And I also know what happens when that pace goes unchecked. In fact, years ago, my days looked very different. I was leaving home before sunrise just to protect my peace from traffic, getting to work early so the drive wouldn't already drain me, staying late so I wouldn't sit in congestion on the way home. And so work filled my days and followed me home. It followed me into weekends, and my life became a loop of output and recovery. There wasn't space to ask how I felt. And even if you had asked me then, I wouldn't have known how to answer without emotion taking over. There was only space to keep going. And at some point, my body started speaking louder than my calendar. And I can remember like it was yesterday when I realized that my life no longer felt like mine, that I was living inside a pace that didn't leave room to breathe, that if something didn't change, I wouldn't be able to keep showing up the way my life required me to. And that season of life did change for me, not overnight, but it did. And it taught me what it costs when you ignore yourself for too long. It taught me why intention matters before certainty. So now as I build this next chapter, I'm doing it differently. I'm holding a vision without forcing it to reveal itself all at once. I'm making decisions without rushing clarity, and I'm allowing space between steps. I know my energy patterns now. I know when I'm clear. I know when I need to pause. And instead of pushing through, I'm listening because what I'm building isn't just a project. It's a place, a sacred space for women who live inside pressure-filled environments, a place where they don't have to explain why they're tired, where steadiness matters as much as performance. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because this isn't a polished story. It's my life right now. I'm leading myself while things are still forming. I'm choosing intention without needing certainty, and I'm trusting that clarity will meet me as I move. That's where I am. And if this sounds familiar, if this is where you find yourself, I want this to be a reminder that you're not alone. So, what I'm realizing as I share this with you is that none of this has come from a big decision or a dramatic moment. It's actually come from paying closer attention while I'm inside my days, from noticing what feels lighter, what feels heavier, and what changes when I stop asking myself, or rather stop pushing myself to be more certain than I actually am. Which is why lately I've been noticing how much lighter my days feel when I stop trying to prove that I'm certain. I've been letting go of the pressure to have everything figured out before I move, before I speak, before I decide. I didn't even realize how much energy that pressure was taking until I loosened my grip on it and I allowed myself to move without needing internal justification every step of the way. And so as I made the decision to build the community for women in law, this community that I'm building that's so important to me, I've been sitting with what I'm personally allowing myself to let go of so that I can build from alignment and truth rather than from fear and the possibility of getting this wrong. I've also really started to reflect on what it actually costs me when I try to carry something meaningful on my own, telling myself I have to do it alone. When you know you're capable, you tell yourself you've got this, so you keep going, right? Even while something inside you is asking for more support, more space, more shared holding. And I've been noticing how different it feels when I let myself build from connection instead of containment. And what leading with intention feels like for me right now is it's less about making bold declarations and more about making honest ones. It's choosing steadiness over speed, listening before acting, letting decisions land instead of chasing certainty. It's trusting that I don't need to rush myself into clarity for my life to keep moving forward. And it's realizing that it's not about changing who I am. It's about noticing what shifts when I stop carrying more than I need to and allow myself to lead from that place instead. What I didn't realize until recently is how long I believed I had to have everything figured out before I could move. I thought clarity had to come first, that if I didn't get it right, it wouldn't land, that people wouldn't understand me, that they wouldn't care, that if the words weren't perfect, the message would miss. So instead of moving, I would pause and then pause again and call it being thoughtful when really I was frozen. I didn't see it as fear at the time. It felt like I was being responsible, like I was being careful strategically. But what I was actually doing was waiting for certainty that never fully arrived. I also didn't realize how strongly I believed that confidence should come before action, that once I felt ready, once I felt sure, then I could take the next step. But what I've come to understand is that certainty doesn't come first, movement does. It's like courage. It doesn't arrive first, it shows up after you move. I realized that the clarity I was waiting for wasn't something I could think my way into. It was something that only showed up once I started having real conversations with real women. Not polished ones, not rehearsed ones, just honest human conversations. That's where things began to open up. And what I'm letting go of in real time is the need to control the outcome before I begin, the pressure to get it perfect, the belief that I have to protect myself by waiting. I didn't realize how much that belief was keeping me stuck, not because I wasn't capable, but because I was trying to manage the entire path before taking the first step. What's shifting now is simple, but it's powerful because I realize I don't need all the answers to move. I need connection, I need conversation, and I need to listen. And I'm realizing that the moment I loosen my grip on needing to get it right, I create space for something much more honest to emerge. That's the belief I'm releasing. Not all at once, but intentionally, one step at a time, one day at a time. And what I'm starting to see now is that the cost is never obvious when you're inside it. Meaning on the outside, everything was still moving. Nothing looked out of the ordinary to anyone else looking in from the outside. But for me, internally, it was heavy. The lid was heavy. And for a long time, I was carrying more than I realized. It was like I stopped listening to my inner knowing, which I like to call my inner canary. She stopped singing, and it was like I stopped noticing that I couldn't hear her anymore, meaning my own voice. And for a long time, I was the one holding responsibility, alone, deciding, adjusting, recalibrating, moving forward without ever really checking in with myself or even asking anyone else for help, And it wasn't because I didn't value support. I truly do. It was more because somewhere along the way, I started believing that I needed to be sure, more certain before I could invite anyone in. Like asking for someone else's opinion would open me up to criticism instead of a safe space to land and get the support I needed. What I've also come to understand is that it wasn't a lack of external validation that was the issue. It was the fear of not having it, right? The fear that if I moved too soon, someone might question what I was doing. That if I named what I was building before it was fully formed, it might not be understood or that I would receive feedback that would talk me out of it. That if I couldn't clearly explain it yet, maybe it wasn't ready to exist or that it wasn't really needed. So instead of sharing the weight, I carried it. I carried the vision, I carried the pressure, I carried the responsibility of making sure it made sense before it ever left my hands. And that creates an internal load that's hard to see while you're living it because the energy doesn't go into collapse, it goes into constant doing, thinking, refining, reworking, self-regulating, checking yourself before anyone else can, right? There's a subtle vigilance that comes with that, an awareness that you're the only one holding the thread. And when you live like that for long enough, direction starts to blur. And it's not because you don't know what you're capable of, but because all of your energy is going into managing forward motion instead of letting yourself be guided by what actually feels right. That's what I see now. The lack of direction wasn't confusion, it was disconnection. I was moving, but I wasn't being held. And everything began to shift when I finally allowed myself to name what I wanted to build and who it was for. When I stopped trying to make it universally understandable and let it be deeply specific, when I realized I didn't need to carry this alone and that leaning into community wasn't a weakness, it was the missing structure. Not to hand things off, but to be witnessed, to be reflected, to be supported while holding something meaningful. The real cost wasn't that I couldn't do it on my own. It was that doing it alone required more internal energy than I ever needed to spend. And that's why I'm sharing this today, because the moment I stopped carrying it alone, everything began to realign. And once I could see that clearly, once I could name that carrying it alone was costing me, the question stopped being, what am I pushing through and became, what do I actually want to move towards instead? Because when you recognize where your energy is being spent, it naturally reveals what you're craving, which for me wasn't more effort or discipline, but a different way of moving forward, one that feels steadier, cleaner, and more supported. And I realized that what I want right now is steadiness. I want my decisions to feel clean when I make them, not rushed, not second guessed later. I want to move forward feeling grounded where my energy stays with me instead of being spent on things that carry me out of alignment. I want to build something with care, not urgency, and to let it take the shape it's meant to without forcing it to hurry, but also without hiding behind waiting or procrastination. And really to build something meaningful for women in law, something that feels like relief the moment they step into it. A place where they feel seen without having to explain themselves, where they feel understood without translating their stress, their pressure, or their responsibility, and where they don't have to justify why they're tired because everyone else in the room already knows, they already get it. I want it to be a space filled with women who live similar lives, who sit in similar rooms, who carry similar expectations, who understand the pace, the pressure, and the weight that comes with it without needing it spelled out. And most importantly for me, I don't want to assume what they need. I want to listen. I want to gather real input from them, from real women living this reality, to build with them, not just for them, because this is something I know I would want. A place where I don't have to explain why it's hard to turn work off, because everyone there understands what it means to carry that level of responsibility. And honestly, I want to create a sisterhood of sorts, a place to land, to breathe, a place to move forward together with mutual understanding. That's the desire driving me right now. Not to build something fast, but to build something that lasts and feels right to the women it's meant for. So what's shifted for me isn't something I decided once and then checked off. It's something I'm practicing daily. And the biggest change has been how I stay connected to myself while I'm inside my days. Not after them, not once everything's done, but as they're happening. And it's why I started recording my days, not for content, not for strategy, and not for anyone else. I started doing it because I realized I was moving through full demanding days without ever really hearing myself inside them. So I began recording short voice notes, sometimes at the end of the day, sometimes in the middle of the day, sometimes twice, sometimes while walking or sitting quietly, just talking to myself. And I'd ask, like, what felt steady today? What felt heavy? Where did my energy rise? Where did it pull back? What felt aligned? What didn't? Not analyzing or fixing, just noticing. I make space for myself to acknowledge what I accomplished, how I feel in the moment, how I felt, and what's happening in my personal life too, because real life doesn't stop to make room for our work, right? And by recording my days this way, I've learned how to give myself grace for the full picture without assigning meaning that adds pressure or self-criticism. What I have loved about this practice is that it has revealed things to me. I can hear patterns. I can hear when I was grounded versus when I was pushing. I can hear when I was moving from clarity versus when I was moving from pressure. And I can also hear the difference between excitement and urgency, between intuition and obligation. And that has changed everything for me in how I intentionally show up in my days. Because instead of trying to manage my energy in my head, I allow myself to witness it. And listening back gives me perspective without judgment. It helps me stay grounded because I'm not relying on memory or emotion alone. I can actually hear where I'm steady and where I'm not. It also slows me down in the best way because it creates a pause between experience and reaction. And in that pause, intention stops being something I talk about and it starts being something I live. For me, leading with intention now looks like checking in instead of charging ahead, like choosing when to engage and when to rest, and letting decisions land instead of stacking them on top of each other. It looks like asking myself, does this feel aligned today, not just logical? And when the answer is no, I listen. Recording my days has also helped me hold vision without forcing clarity because I don't need to know exactly how everything will unfold to stay committed. I don't need the whole plan to trust the direction. When I listen back, I can hear that I'm moving from truth, not fear, and that matters. This practice keeps me anchored inside myself while I'm building something new. And it reminds me that intention isn't a declaration you make once, it's a relationship you stay in, daily, consistently. And the more I practice it this way, the more I trust myself. Not because I'm certain, but because I'm present. That's the shift, that I'm no longer trying to get ahead of my life. And so what I'm allowing myself to do right now is slow the moment down long enough to notice what's already here. I'm noticing that when I give myself space to build without rushing to explain it, to justify it, or get it approved, that there's a different quality to how it lives inside me because it feels steadier, more honest, and less performative. I'm also noticing that questioning myself doesn't automatically mean I'm on the wrong path. Sometimes it's simply the moment where I've stepped outside what's familiar, where the old reference points no longer apply and the new ones haven't fully formed yet. And instead of looking outward for reassurance, I'm practicing staying inward just a little longer, listening to what feels true before asking anyone else what they think, letting my own knowing speak before the noise comes in. I don't need to be fearless to keep moving. I don't need certainty to trust myself. I just need to stay close enough to hear what's guiding me. So this is how I'm choosing to meet this season of my life. With presence instead of pressure, with intention instead of urgency, and with trust. Not because everything's clear, but because I'm listening. And for now, that's enough. So what this season has shown me is that steadiness doesn't come from getting your yes right. It comes from having a place where your decisions are supported while they're forming. I've come to understand that because I was always thinking like I had to have everything, all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed. I had to know everything. And I've realized that I don't. And here's what I want you to take with you as we close. As high-performing women, we don't shift because someone points something out to us, right? We shift when we finally hear ourselves clearly, when we notice how we've been carrying things, how we've been moving, how much we've been holding on our own. And that moment of recognition doesn't just push us forward, it settles us. And that kind of awareness creates space for a different way of leading ourselves. And that's why what I'm building now feels less like a pivot and more like a remembering of who this work has always been for. Because after 43 years in that world myself, I've seen how much pressure women in law carry, how much decision weight, responsibility, and internal urgency becomes normalized. And I've realized that what's missing isn't discipline, it's steadiness, a place to ground decisions and protect energy while living inside that pressure, not outside of it. So like I said, I'm in the process of creating something new. I'm building a community, the Yes Reset community, a private invitation-only space for women in law who want ongoing decision and energy support that will support them inside the environments they're already navigating every day. It's not open yet because I'm intentionally building it slowly and thoughtfully. But if you're a woman in the legal profession and you're listening in today and you're thinking, I'd like to know more about that, or it sounds like something that you'd want to be a part of, I would love for you to reach out to me, and you can send me an email. You'll find my email in the show notes, and let's start a conversation. Because I'm building an environment for women legal professionals who don't need fixing, but they do deserve steadier systems to move through the lives they're already leading. So if that's you, I'd love to hear from you. Now, before you go, I want to be clear about one thing. I'm not sharing this from a place of having it all figured out because it's a work in progress. I'm sharing it from inside the process, which is the process I'm living. I'm leading myself in real time. I'm making decisions while things are still forming, and I'm choosing intention without needing certainty to come first. And I think that's important, right? Because intention doesn't mean you're always clear. It doesn't mean every step feels confident, but it does mean that you're willing to stay present with yourself while you move. And right now, that's what my life looks like. I'm learning to listen more and force less, and to let things take shape instead of demanding answers too soon. I'm learning that steadiness isn't something you arrive at after everything settles. It's something you practice while you're still inside the unknown. And that feels honest to me. It feels human. It feels like the way I want to live and lead from here. So I'm moving through this season with grace, allowing myself space to listen and learn without rushing the process, and sharing this as I live it, not after I've wrapped it up neatly. Thanks for listening in today. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Hey guys, it's your girl Yasia. I want to share some really exciting news with you. I just dropped my first ever single, Spell on You, off my upcoming debut EP, Devil's Room, on RM Records. It's simply devilicious. Check out Spell on You wherever you listen to music. Bye for now.
I never thought I'd fall in love like this. It's time to close the chapter, but I think I needed this.
For those of you who dream of a world where music and podcasts live together in perfect harmony, now, for the first time, Electricast gives you a magical compilation, Pod Till You Drop, Volume 1, where we give you the best in tunes and the best in podcasts. Feast your ears and hear the culture. Available now wherever you listen to music.
Electricast.